Welcome back to Emavura Audiobooks. Tonight's story brings us to the very heart of Australia, Alice Springs, and the ancient ranges that surround it. A geologist's careful eye uncovers something she was never meant to find, out in country far older than memory. This is The Red Center Line. Narrator, contemplative, spacious. Alice Springs sits almost exactly in the center of the continent, ringed by the ancient folded ridges of the MacDonnell Ranges, country older than memory, and, as Sergeant Noel Pierce liked to remind junior officers, country that doesn't forgive carelessness in policing or in anything else. The Gorge. A tour operator found the vehicle first, parked at a locked gate near a lesser-known gorge, some 40 kilometers west of town, well off the tourist trail. Inside, alone, was 36-year-old Karen Bostock, a geologist who'd been contracted to survey mineral prospects for a resource company. She'd been dead approximately 2 days. Gunshot wound. This wasn't a domestic dispute or a bar fight gone wrong. This was deliberate, and it was executed somewhere remote enough that the killer had clearly counted on the desert to keep the secret. Karen's work, Noel Pierce, alongside Aboriginal Community Police Officer Tricia Nampijinpa, whose knowledge of the country and its access routes proved indispensable throughout the investigation, began reconstructing Karen's final weeks. Her survey work had taken her to several prospective sites, and her field notes, recovered from her laptop, revealed she'd stumbled onto something well outside her job description. Evidence that a supply route for precursor chemicals used in the manufacture of methamphetamine was moving through a disused exploration camp she'd been sent to assess, disguised among legitimate drilling supplies. She wasn't looking for it, Tricia said, reading through Karen's meticulous notes. She just noticed inconsistencies, chemical drums that didn't match any registered exploration program. Being a geologist, she documented everything. That's probably what got her killed. The exploration camp. The camp in question was operated under contract by a logistics coordinator named Dale Spite, a man with an unremarkable record and an easy manner that had, according to several colleagues, made him well-liked across multiple resource companies operating in the region. What those companies didn't know was that Spite had over roughly 18 months been running a secondary and highly illegal operation, using the remoteness and low oversight of exploration logistics to move chemical precursors between Alice Springs and networks further north, exploiting the fact that mining supply chains through the territory received minimal scrutiny compared to more conventional freight. Karen Bostock's field notes, cross-referenced with camp supply manifests Tricia helped obtain through her contacts, made the connection almost undeniable. When confronted with a formal request to explain the discrepancies for her final report, Karen had emailed Spite directly, a fatal transparency that gave the investigation its clearest piece of evidence, a paper trail of her own suspicion, sent straight to the man who would, days later, arrange to meet her at the gorge, under the pretense of clarifying a site access issue. Tracking the killer, physical evidence took longer to gather than in town-based cases. The Outback offers few CCTV cameras and fewer casual witnesses, but ballistics eventually matched a firearm registered to Spite for pest control purposes. And tire impressions near the locked gate matched his vehicle's distinct off-road tread, a detail Tricia herself identified from experience reading tracks across that country for years. When they arrested Spite at a roadhouse outside town, he initially claimed he'd never met Karen Bostock in person. The email trail, plus a fuel receipt, placing his vehicle at a station 40 kilometers from the gorge on the day of the murder, unraveled that claim within the week. She was going to end everything, Speight finally admitted. Not just me, the whole route. Dozens of people relying on that income out here, where there isn't much else. That's not a defense, Dale, Noel said. That's a confession with excuses attached. Dale Speight was convicted of murder, and the exploration company's supply chain was overhauled following a territory-wide review of chemical logistics oversight in remote mining operations. Sergeant Noel Pierce and Officer Tricia Nampijimpa continued to work together for years afterward, a partnership built on the case. Tricia often said the ranges had a way of holding on to what happened within them, not as haunting, but as memory, written into the ground for anyone patient enough and respectful enough to read it. Karen Bostock's research was later credited by name in a regional report on remote resource safety, a small, quiet acknowledgement for a woman whose careful eye for detail became, in the end, the very thing that solved her own case. And that brings us to the end of the Red Center Line and the close of this collection of Outback Shadows here on Emovira Audiobooks. Thank you so much for listening to all 5 stories in this series. If you enjoyed these tales from the Outback, please subscribe, leave a comment with your favorite story, and stay tuned because more original mysteries are on the way.